Welcome all. Thank you for joining us as Maine higher education and business leaders call for immigration reform in the budget reconciliation package. I'm Beth Stickney, Executive Director of MeBIC, the Maine Business Immigration Coalition. MeBIC is Maine's only resource dedicated to providing information, education, and advocacy on immigration and related issues for and from the business and economic perspective. MeBIC is a chapter of ABIC, the American Business Immigration Coalition, which promotes common sense immigration reform that advances economic competitiveness, provides companies with both the high-skilled and low-skilled talent they need, and allows the integration of immigrants into our economy as consumers, workers, entrepreneurs, and citizens. Today's event is the main launch of ABIC's multi-state, multifaceted, seven-figure campaign to push the decades-long effort to reform our nation's broken immigration system over the finish line when budget reconciliation legislation is planned for debate this fall. For the nation and for Maine in particular, immigration reform is simply urgent. Maine, according to the Boston Fed, crossed the tipping point last year where we have more people over age 18 and under age 65. More people over age 65, than under age 18. While Maine may be the oldest state in the country, the rest of the nation is not far behind. While our immigration system, top to bottom, is out of date and needs revamping, at a minimum, we can't afford to lose the people who are already here. There's been consistent bipartisan support for legalizing dreamers who came to the US as children, and for farm workers and essential workers and those who have temporary protected status. We had hoped for bipartisan support, but if the Senate's not going to act on these reforms, which have already been approved by the House of Representatives, inaction is not an option. Congress has to get this done through reconciliation. Legalization and citizenship would boost economic activity nationally by $121 billion a year, and federal, state, and local tax revenues would increase by $31 billion each year. The reforms would also address acute labor shortages. Our economy has 10.1 million job openings, and allowing undocumented immigrants to further expand their economic potential would ease this labor shortage. Congress must act on these provisions quickly to bring stability to the lives of immigrants seeking legal status and to the businesses that employ them and are facing worker shortages. ABIC's and MeBIC's members support getting immigration reform done through the budget reconciliation process, which is how immigration legislation is often enacted. I'm pleased that Maine's independent colleges and universities agree and are joining us here today, along with Maine business representatives. Joining us today, first up, will be David Barber of Tyson Foods and the former CEO of Barber Foods here in Portland, who is an ABIC co-chair and is president of the board of the Maine of MeBIC. David?
Thank you, Beth, for the introduction. As Beth mentioned, I'm a co-chair of ABIC, the American Business Immigration Coalition, and board president for MeBIC. I've spent my life career at Barber Foods in Portland, Maine, starting at deboning chicken and making chicken nuggets to becoming president and CEO. The company is now part of Tyson Foods. My connections with immigration stems from our work with this community in the early 70s. With a rapidly growing business making prepared chicken, we needed people, and my father's background as a first-generation American made his attraction to the immigration condition easy to understand. He witnessed firsthand as a kid in Portland how others his age would pick on those from way away. He vowed to make a difference, and I would say that he succeeded in that quest. My father believed in making sure new immigrants could have stable lives and integrate into our society. He paid workers fairly and provided good benefits, including for retirement. Barber Foods was ahead of its time in setting up classes on site, so people could go right from the production line to the classroom to learn English and computer skills and to take citizenship classes. Employees seized the chance to learn, and many were promoted as they improved their skills. We all celebrated with those who passed their citizenship classes. It was a big deal, and my father truly enjoyed handing out their diplomas to the new Americans. Dad wanted to make sure that immigrants would do well by working at Barber Foods, and immigrants have been equally important in helping the company do well. This is a theme that not only fits Barber Foods history, it's one that resonates with the state of Maine and the country as a whole. We have an amazing and very trainable workforce looking for opportunities and a dramatic need to fill positions at many levels. We would have all preferred that immigration reform to be a bipartisan deal, but since that wasn't successful, this needs to be included in reconciliation. Free fighter just flew over my house. Sorry about that. I've never seen that before. At any rate, we all would have preferred that immigration reform be part of a bipartisan deal, but since that wasn't successful, this needs to be included in reconciliation. I echo the Republican letter to our DC leaders that the economic benefits for all Americans are clear. Legalizing Dreamers, TPS recipients, farm workers, and essential workers is not only morally right, it's vital for our economy. And remember, these are people who are already here. Just ask anyone in manufacturing or the service industry how it's going with staffing levels and whether they have had to alter services or cut product selection levels. The answer is clear. I encourage Senators King and Collins, Representatives Pingree and Golden to support these reforms in the budget reconciliation package. Thanks for listening.
Next, I'd like to introduce Jim DLUGOS, who is president of St. Joseph College of Maine and also of the Maine Independent Colleges Association.
Thanks, thanks, Beth. I am Jim DLUGOS, and I'm here today representing St. Joseph's College of Maine and the 10 institutions of higher education that belong to the Maine Independent College Association. Maine's independent colleges recognize the immense contribution that our immigrant and international students, scholars, faculty, and staff make on a daily basis to our campuses and to our communities. While Maine has relatively few current DACA holders, currently there are 1,500 immigrant youth in Maine who would become eligible for permanent residency through the DREAM Act and could begin building real futures here in Maine. Nationally, there are approximately 427,000 undocumented students enrolled in institutions of higher education, including 181,000 DACA eligible individuals. They need our support to continue with their studies and to build toward productive futures. We urge Senators Collins and King and Maine's entire congressional delegation to ensure that immigration solutions for Dreamers, as well as TPS recipients, farm workers, and other essential workers are included in the budget reconciliation package. Thank you.
Thank you, President DLUGOS. Now I'd like to introduce James HERBERT, President of the University of New England.
Good morning, everyone. So I want to begin by saying that I was very privileged last year to serve as part of Governor Mills's Economic Recovery Committee. And in fact, I co-chaired the Workforce Development Subcommittee of that group. And through that work, I became even more acutely aware of how badly Maine needs immigrants. It's basically a matter of simple arithmetic. If we don't bring in immigrants, our population will decline. We could build a wall around New Hampshire, not to keep people out, but to keep more people in. And we would continue to decline in population if we didn't bring in immigrants. The only reason Maine hasn't lost population, given the demographic trends, is because of immigration. And we need not only the immigrants coming in through our existing legal channels, but we need the Dreamers and the farm workers and those who are here on temporary protected status, asylum seekers. We need the folks who are already here in order to continue contributing to our economy. And in terms of the healthcare workforce, I'd like to speak to that in particular. The University of New England is Maine's largest provider of healthcare workforce in the state and indeed in the region. And these Dreamers are going to be our future doctors, nurses, dentists, and other medical professionals. Another piece to this that's important to consider is that in order to really provide the access to healthcare that Mainers need. We need more healthcare providers who look like the populations they serve. And that's another piece of this that will come into play as we consider this legislation. So I urge our congressional delegation, federal delegation, to strongly consider supporting the reconciliation process, the inclusion of these protections. I would also add, if you haven't seen it yet, please take a look at the Portland Press Herald's lead editorial. Yesterday, the editorial board wrote a very nice essay describing the importance of this process and really articulating everything that we're saying here today. So thank you very much.
Thank you, James, and sorry that your camera seemed to have gotten stuck. And thank you to, as two representatives of Maine's independent colleges and universities, for the letter that you have sent to our senators and for calling on our entire delegation to support immigration reform through the reconciliation process. I will note that after our next speaker, we will be doing a Q&A for the media. And so if you have any questions, please type them into the Q&A and we'll get to them after the next speaker, who is Adele Ngoy, who is an immigrant and an entrepreneur and owner of Adele Masengo Designs and also of Antoine's Formal Wear and Tailor Shop, and the founder of Women Women United Around the World. and Adele wears many, many hats and contributes to the community in many ways, including being a board member of MeBIC. So Adele, thank you.
Thank you, Beth. Thank you all. Thank you for having me here. My name is Adele Ngoy. I am originally from Congo. I've been in Poland 21 years. I came here as a refugee from Democratic Republic of Congo. And when I arrived here, I didn't know any word in English. I was just, you say hi, I don't know what to tell you. But over years of patience, go to school, learn English, and after years of receiving all the support I got from the community, I want to give back for everything the community did to me. I started an organization called Women United Around the World. And being a mother of three, my three children, my oldest, she finished college. My early age here in Maine, I was just focusing on raising my kid and try to do the best for them. Now, my oldest daughter works in DC in international development, and my my two other kids, they living in Los Angeles, try to build their name in the arts, and they are activists. And I'm working now with helping immigrants to support young people who are working to start their own business. They need support, encouragement, and the benefit of my experience so they can do what they want to do. And I would like to talk a little bit again. We need to support immigrants. They need help because I believe that we will see an explosion in creativity and economic innovation in our children. I spend a lot of time with kids, try to encourage them and try to push them to do the best, because when they look at me, what I did for all these years, I think young people, they can do that. And I can't believe if I came here with legal paperwork. When I arrived here, I had my green card. It would be impossible to get where I am here with no legal paperwork. That's why I encourage I believe that we need immigration, including refugee, asylum seeker, also the dreamer, farm worker, other essential worker, and those who temporarily protected by the status, who have lived here for decades. I believe strongly that they deserve a path to permanent residence. and that we will be all better off when that happened for them. And I hope the Maine senator and the representative do everything in their power to make sure that immigration solutions are included in the reconciliation process. That's my hope, and thank you for having me.
Thank you so much, Adele. So we can open it up to questions, and I am not seeing any in the Q&A. So we could also just, you could unmute yourself if you would like to ask a question. And let's see, there is, yeah. If there are any questions, I will note that under the provisions of the DREAM Act in Maine, conservatively, we estimate that there are at least 1,500 youth who are dependents on their parents' asylum applications that are stuck and have been stuck for years in asylum processing backlogs, who would be able to get their permanent residency through the DREAM Act, which would allow them to then go on to be able to access college in ways that they simply can't now, because they'd have access to, be able to work their way through college or to student loans, et cetera. So Maine would see a direct benefit just in the young population. I do see a question from Ari Snyder of Maine Public. Other than healthcare and farm work, what are some of the industries that in Maine that rely most heavily on immigrants? I guess I can start that and I'll let others chime in. But there's construction, the hospitality is highly dependent, manufacturing, and quite frankly, at the high end of the spectrum, we have places like Eastern Maine Medical Center, well, that is healthcare, obviously, but at every level of healthcare, from doing laundry to doing, cardiovascular surgery, we're reliant on immigrants. David or Adele, do you want to join in, or anybody on this?
So Beth, I could just say briefly, and it looks like my camera's finally working. Sorry about that before, but I could say briefly that what we discovered with the task force, the economic recovery task force last year, was that in fact, every industry, there's not a single industry in Maine where immigrants don't feature prominently. So although the things you normally think of, like the hospitality industry, are key, and healthcare certainly, it really is across the board. Business and entrepreneurship, immigrants tend to start businesses at much higher rates than native-born populations. And so there really is not an industry that is untouched by immigration.
And I'd like to point out that roughly, when before we were purchased, roughly half of our employees were of immigrant roots, and even today that has held true. So and we're from today right around 30 different countries represented under one roof in Portland. That's kind of remarkable.
I will add something about that question. Immigrants who come here, mostly when they leave the country, I can say 70 to 80% of immigrants come to US, they are educated. And all of them, they have something to bring on the economy on the table, because they have the skill. And yes, they are everywhere. They can work in any different field. I think immigrants can do, they can be represented everywhere in different fields, because they have the skill, they have the knowledge. It's just sometimes it's just a lack of the language, but they are well educated, mostly immigrants who come here.
Yeah, that is certainly true. When we look at the data, the education level of immigrants in terms of the advanced degrees is higher than our native Maine population, at least looking at the state data. And so any other whoops, any other questions? It looks like not. So if last call for questions, but otherwise, we thank you all for attending, and we look forward to continuing this discussion as ABIC pushes nationwide for finally getting immigration reform done, at least for the populations who are already here that we can't afford to lose. It's just the beginning. We need much more than that. But this is, this is something that we absolutely have to do. We can no longer waste the potential of people who are already here by leaving them working in only temporary statuses or working, in the shadows. People who come here to work and to support their families, and improve their lives and be safe. Really, we need them to be able to reach their full potential in our country. It will benefit them, and it will really benefit the United States and Maine. So thank you very much, and I think we're done.
Recording stopped.